Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I've been going out with a girl, her name is Julie, but last night she said to me when we were watching telly.
Paul is in Liverpool. Paul, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Yeah, I just want to say that the age of glibness and denial is over. Jihad, the killing for Allah, is an intrinsic part of Islam. Islam is on the march, radical Islam. It is day after day, mass murder after mass murder. It's at our doorstep, and if we don't react to it, we will all pay the price.
So every Muslim is pretty much responsible for these murders?
Every mosque is preaching this message of jihad.
I've got some of the other lines here, just to save you. This one here is good. If you reject my commands and abhor my laws, you will eat the flesh of your own sons and your own daughters.
Jihad is the problem, James.
Oh, I know. I'm giving you some of the quotes.
War against the unbeliever.
I don't allow for a woman to teach. You will have to cut off her hand. Do not forgive her.
Kill for Islam. Kill for Islam. Kill for Allah. That's the message they're given day after day.
They were from the Bible.
Respond to that, we will die.
They were from the Bible.
Respond to it.
Those lines are from the Bible.
From the Quran.
No, they're from the Bible, Paul.
We have Paul on the line from Liverpool.
Hi, yeah.
You know, I grew up supporting Liverpool. Do you support Liverpool or Everton, Paul?
I'm a toffee. I'm an Evertonian.
You were like my brother. Oh, no. Okay, tell us what you think about this UKIP leadership race.
Yeah, I think in politics, fortune favours the bold, and UKIP have got to be bold. They can't allow the left to define them with these terms like far-right and racist. No one's interested in these terms anymore. We've moved on from the Blair years. We've got to face the issues as they are today.
I think I might agree with you, Paul, there. You know what happened to me yesterday on the show? I was talking about House of Lords reform, potential House of Lords reform, and I got called a bigot for suggesting the House of Lords might need reform because of the way Shami Chakrabarti was appointed.
Yeah, we've just got to ignore the left, these insults from the left. We've got to you see, I'm white, working class northerner. I voted UKIP at the last election. I voted for Brexit. It was the white working class in Britain who got Brexit in this country. It wasn't the rural. We voted solidly in places like Barnsley and a place like Sunderland to leave the EU. And it's our heart, because we are patriots. We believe in the nation. We believe in Britain. We love Britain's past. We don't apologise for Britain. And we know that there's a threat to Britain now, and that threat is Islam. And that's what UKIP has got to face. So
let me ask you about Islam, Paul. You said it's a threat to Britain. I would say that it's extremist interpretations of Islam.
No.
Now we've got. So hold on, I'll ask you a question. We've got around 3 million Muslims in Britain. I'm one of them.
Or more.
Yeah.
I think more.
All right. I'm one of them. And you're calling in on my show. Do you feel threatened by me in any way?
Absolutely, yeah. Because if I went to Pakistan, of course. If I went to Pakistan, you would not get an English guy running a radio show in Pakistan, especially not an English.
Hold on, Paul. What on earth have I done to threaten you right now on this show?
Because Islam is taking ground step by step. They're getting MPs, they're taking over radio shows, they're building mosques, they're bringing people in, their numbers are increasing. They're doing a job on us, and they want to take over this country. They're taking from us every day. They're milking a benefit system for all the work, all these Muslim immigrants, and we've got to stop Islam before it takes over this country. It's a takeover movement. It's a political movement, Islam. It's not a religion. It's called Islamism. Islam believes in Sharia law, and they want to take over this country, and someone's got to stand up to them.
So
and
Paul,
this is the role of UKIP.
Do you know where I was born?
Yeah. It doesn't matter where you were born. It's what your ideology is. You belong to the Ummah. You belong to the Islamic people. You don't belong to Britain.
I tell you what I belong to, Paul. I belong to the Liberal Democrats. I'm sure they get accused of many things, but one of them being rather spineless and wishy-washy liberals. But actually, it's very rare for people who belong to the Liberal Democrats to be accused of belonging to the global ideological Muslim Ummah. What you've done there, Paul, though, is a fantastic advert, an amazing advert for why myself, and I hope many of our listeners, will not be voting UKIP in the general elections. If this is representative of your members' views, then I suggest to you that they are quite xenophobic, and in your case, because you're suggesting by your analogy that I should compare the fact that I'm hosting you on my radio show here with how you would be treated in Pakistan, I'd say slightly racist too, only because I'm British. It's got nothing to do with me how people treat anyone else in Pakistan, apart from I would sit here in Britain, being born and raised in Essex as I am, Southend-on-Sea, and criticise Pakistan for the discrimination that is enshrined in that country's law, as I regularly do. And yes, justified by Islam. They have a blasphemy law, which they also justify by Islam. And a year before the Charlie Hebdo attacks, I tweeted a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad and said, God's greater than to take such offence, because I believe in liberal, free speech, human rights values. So what on earth you think I've done to threaten you, apart from the fact that I have a name that you perhaps think sounds foreign and a skin colour that you perhaps don't like? It's astounding, really, Paul. But thank you for being a guest on my show. You're more than welcome to call in again, by the way. All right, Paul, you have a good day, yeah? Mark is on the line from Oxted.
Hi, good morning, sir. First of all, good grief. I'd just like to apologise for the previous caller.
That's all right. You're not responsible for his views.
Ridiculous set of assumptions that seems to epitomise what UKIP stand for.
And we're joined now by prominent Welsh UKIP activist John Rees-Evans. Welcome to the programme. Are you going to declare and be the 8th candidate for the leadership?
Yes, today I've come on here to declare that I am standing for the candidacy of the leadership of UKIP.
Right. I mean, viewers, not many viewers will know you. You're not exactly a household name. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
OK, well, I'm an entrepreneur with a background in mountaineering, and my business mostly relates to kind of adventurous tourism. But I've been a strong supporter of the work of UKIP since the early 1990s. And in fact, I only became a member fairly recently, because in the past I was perfectly happy to play a background supportive role.
Right. Why background?
Because I believed that there were talented people there who were capable of doing what was necessary to be done, as proven by the fact that we did indeed get this referendum, and we did prove that over half the country supports our basic foundational premise.
Right. I mean, because, as you have admitted yourself, you're not that well known, you've stayed in the background, we have obviously done some research on you. A Vice News profile of you last year said you're a survival expert, who, when you once visited an IKEA in Bulgaria, persuaded a sales assistant to let you carry your Glock handgun in case terrorists lay siege to the building. Is this true?
No, the chap who wrote that, great guy, but that is an embellishment. I mean, he's writing for an audience that really appreciates kind of exaggerated journalism.
Which bit's exaggerated, just to make it clear to our audience?
OK, so on that particular day, I was doing some training, which is quite normal in Bulgaria. I do IPSC, which is competitive speed pistol shooting.
Right.
Of course, I was trained by the British Army to operate weapons. It's a waste of taxpayer money if I don't maintain those skills, of course. And I have access to Bulgaria.
But did you have the gun on you when you went into the store?
Well, yes. In fact, I did, because it simply wasn't safe to hand it over to the security, and I had some things that I had to get. Now, in fact, that little story about laying siege to a building, quite simply, they said to me the reason they don't allow weapons to go in there is because in case there were an attack, and I said, surely you want law-abiding people to be armed if people are going to come in here and attack you.
Right. I mean, some people might think that's quite an extreme position to hold in terms of carrying arms, although you have explained why. The profile also says you're building a secure compound in Bulgaria in case of a global meltdown, featuring a church, a leisure complex, a firing range, and a watchtower that will double as a diving platform. Lots of detail there. Do you think you might struggle to convince enough UK voters that you are the man to lead UKIP?
Do you know, Joe, I really respect what you're doing. I don't know who's assisted you with these questions.
It wasn't difficult to find this information.
But with all due respect, I believe that people are actually interested in why I'm standing and the vision that I have. What I would say is that story was entirely exaggerated. If you have property and there are animals around, of course you'll secure the perimeter of your property. I mean, a secure compound simply means a garden with a wall, which I'm sure you have if you have a garden.
I do have a garden. I don't secure it in quite that way. But I suppose you're going for the leadership of UKIP. People will want to know about you and what sort of person you are, and these reveal you in a certain way, and viewers can make up their own mind. What do you actually want to do with UKIP if you win the contest? OK,
so the situation we have is that UKIP is at a very clear crossroads, and there are two paths that it can take. Now, it's my understanding that all of the other candidates are essentially jostling to take UKIP down a given path. Now that path may look obvious, it may look straightforward, but the end result of that path is that UKIP is going to end up as just another political party where people work themselves into positions of power so as to be able to pursue their own agendas rather than represent the will of the people. Now what I'm proposing to do with UKIP is entirely different. I am proposing to transfer power from the leadership to the membership. I believe in a process known as direct democracy, where the leadership doesn't have any authority to move the party in any direction it wants to go without direct consent, demonstrably, from the people.
Do you think with that platform you're going to beat some of the more established candidates like Paul Nuttall, Suzanne Evans, Raheem Kassam?
You know, it all depends on whether people in media are willing to actually listen to my ideas or whether they want to trivialise it with stories like this chap has come up with.
I'm not sure it's trivialising it, and you've answered those questions that have been raised in that profile, as well as setting out your stall. Let's talk about one of the other candidates, and we'll come back to you in just a moment. Gisela Stewart, Paul Nuttall has spoken of his experience of winning over Labour voters in the north of England. Would he be the man you'd be most worried about?
I think Labour's got a challenge in those areas where, particularly those traditional areas where they wouldn't dream, if they still but wouldn't dream of voting for the Tories, and therefore the UKIP would be a fallback position. But what I think what Labour voters would look for is whether there's anything out there which actually improves their living conditions and improves their skills. And I just don't see at the moment that the UKIP programme is really that seductive.
Right, and what about you? I mean, the Conservatives at the moment, I suppose, arguably, we could be saying, you know, did we worry too much about UKIP a few years ago when you look at the infighting that has broken out in the party now?
In my party?
Well, no, in UKIP's party. I was saying, did you worry too much about UKIP as a threat to your party?
I don't think it was a worry about UKIP. I think that there was a completely legitimate sense that the public had been promised a referendum on the EU issue, and then it had been taken away, and we had to deal with that issue. And I still think that was the right thing to do, even though the result was not the one we want, because I'm a Democrat. I think that Theresa May, both in pledging that we will respect that result and implement the Leave vote, and in mounting a broad appeal to the whole country, a country that works for everyone, in her words, is taking the ground from under the feet of parties like UKIP. What is the point of UKIP when the public have voted to leave the EU? And we have a Prime Minister who has pledged that we will now implement that.
Right, well, what is the point of UKIP then?
OK, well, can I please just summarise my understanding of the situation with UKIP and tell you what my vision is moving forward?
Briefly,
okay,
yes.
OK, because right now, you know, I won't deny the fact that there is infighting. The situation you have with UKIP is that you have fighters, you have freedom fighters without an enemy. They've just won the last battle. And I can tell you in my own personal experience, when fighters don't have a common enemy, they end up turning on each other. Okay, in Parachute Regiment, you know, people are going out during the week, working hard, doing challenges together, they're united. On the weekend, you know, with nothing particularly to do, they end up fighting with each other. It's very common with fighters. Now, UKIP is a party of fighters. And what I'm proposing to do is to direct all of that aggression towards the enemy.
And the enemy is?
The enemy is any kind of politics in Britain that doesn't represent the will of the people. The politics that puts people into positions of power to pursue their own agendas rather than the agenda that the British people give them, the mandate the British people give them.
Let me push a bit further on some of your background, because you were strongly criticised for the way you were asked to respond to a claim made by another UKIP candidate, this was in the run-up to the general election, that some homosexuals prefer sex with animals. You did so by talking about how a gay donkey tried to rape your horse. Do you still stand by that?
You know, Joe, it's really interesting what you're doing, because I'm trying to tell you my serious vision for UKIP, and you keep trivialising it. Look,
was that just a trivial point?
It was a bit of playful banter with a mischievous activist. Okay?
Right.
Now, look, I would be so appreciative if you could please just understand the concept that I'm trying to communicate to your viewers, and that is that according to the plan that I have for UKIP, UKIP is going to grow. Right now, there's very little reason to join UKIP. I wouldn't be surprised if we had fewer than 25,000 members, and yet 17.4 million people in this country have essentially said they agree with our basic premise.
Right, but are those the sort of answers that you would give as leader of the party, even in a frivolous way?
No, I concede it was a mistake to be playful with an activist in a street. The fact is I'm not a politician. You know, the guy was just asking me questions in the street, it was an error of judgment. You know, I was very early coming into politics, and yeah, I'm sorry if I offended anyone by doing that, but please can we move on?
Right. Shouldn't Theresa May be thinking of calling a snap election?
Well, she said that she wouldn't during the leadership contest, and in doing so, she would be exchanging the certainty of another 3.5 years.
It would
of
give
a fixed-term
it would give her a
parliament.
mandate, though, wouldn't it, for the Brexit negotiations?
Well, she has a mandate from the British people that we are going to leave. So although I can see that while the party remains so far ahead in the polls that it might be a temptation, that would be the question, which is why run the risk of going for another 5 years when you already have 3.5 with a workable majority.
All right. John Rees-Evans, thank you very much.
I know he's a moron. Gordon is a moron.